What is up, everyone? It's Ryan, living in Cambodia, making videos so you can see what it's like to live in the Kingdom of Wonder. Actually, today we're not looking into the Kingdom of Wonder. Today it's raining out. I was planning to do a little Monday morning market vart, as I call them, and the rain kept me inside. So I decided I'm going to try something a little different today. I'm calling it, what am I calling it? Tales from the Road. I'm sure that's a very original title. Sarah and I have been traveling a lot for the past 15 years. I have a lot of stories of debauchery, stories of misfortune, stories of bodily misfunctions. And that's what today's story is. It's the story of the barf bus, and it all happens in Peru. I'm gonna make some coffee, grab some water. Gonna do a French press. Grind up some beans. So, it's 2010, and Sarah and I are traveling, not the first time as a couple, but this was the first major backpacking trip that we were taking together. This was actually the first time we had traveled to a developing nation. Back then we called them third world countries, but we were in Peru and we were pretty blown away by just how different the life was there. And back then we didn't have the technology we do today. We didn't have smartphones. We had Lonely Planet, we had books, we had the internet of course, but you didn't really plan on the go. Nowadays I'm like, oh, let's go check this out. Okay, we go and boop, boop, boop. Now I know how to get there. I gotta grind some beans, hold on. Leaves a nice powder. Is it good? Can you see it? So we're in Peru, we're in Pisco. Pisco is famous because the Pisco sour was apparently invented there. Pisco was actually hit by an earthquake a couple of years before we got there, and that was super eye-opening. Like, we had never been to an earthquake-torn town, and there were buildings that were still in crumbles, and it was life-changing in some ways. But all that isn't really related to the story. We decided we're gonna take a bus from Pisco to Ayacucho. Ayacucho is this city in the Andes, basically in a valley. So we were like, how do we get there? The internet says, take a bus from here, it goes there, it leaves at this time. All right, it's easy. We sit, wait for the bus, we get on the bus, and we go. But we didn't know how long the ride was. And so we checked Google Maps. We just did driving directions. I think it said 4, maybe 5 hours, and we thought, okay, we can do that on a bus. We had no idea this journey was going to be so remote and mountainous, and the roads were going to be switchbacks back and forth through the Andes. A little bit of water, just a splash of water in there, let those coffee grinds absorb it, and then they let them blossom, I believe the term is. When we first got on the bus, they gave us these plastic bags. And everybody on the bus got a plastic bag, and I thought, this is kind of weird. I guess this is for garbage. We didn't know, we didn't speak Spanish, and we were the only gringos on the bus. Everybody was local, and we're kind of learning a little bit more about mountain life because we had no experience with mountains hardly, other than some small hikes through the Tatra Mountains in Slovakia. We start climbing the switchbacks up the mountain, getting higher up, and it's pretty beautiful, but it doesn't take long at all before Sarah starts feeling sick. And of course that bag comes into play. She starts puking in the bag. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. That's not good at all. I feel really bad for her, and I also kind of feel bad just because we're the gringos puking on the bus, and like a little bit, oh, sorry everybody. But then I look over and there's somebody else puking. And I look up, there's another guy puking up further up the aisle. As we're getting deeper into this trip, it's, I'd say, about 3 hours in, and there's probably 6, 7 people puking into bags on the bus. The smell was obviously terrible. It reeked. I'm sitting right next to somebody who's just puking their guts out, and I just felt so bad for Sarah because she just looked awful. I remember at one point looking over and seeing a kid, and he just looks totally out of it. It's like eyes are half open, his head's back like this, and he just goes, bah! And it just goes, and pukes, and just runs all down his shirt. Didn't look down, didn't turn at all. He just went, bah! And went down. He just sat there longer, and his dad just goes, oh, and he takes a little tissue and starts trying to clean it up, but the tissue's this big, and the puke is, horrible. Sarah is pretty much passed out at this point. she's just like waking up every once in a while to puke into a bag, or at least like sitting there with her eyes closed, just trying not to be sick. And at this time, I'm not even thinking altitude sickness. I'm still thinking, oh, this is road, like, what's it called? Driving sickness? What? Car sick. Yeah, that's a thing. It's like car sickness. That sounds so wrong. Am I crazy? I am car sick. I have car sickness? That doesn't really make sense much to me. So I figure she's sick from the car ride. It was a terrible ride, like even for a person who didn't get sick. Beautiful though, absolutely beautiful. I remember going around the corner and then it's just see across the valley and there's a rainbow coming into it. Just gorgeous. But it stunk like puke. It was bumpy and loud, and they're blasting some terrible Peruvian movie, and it's super loud, it's overmodulated, and it's really hard to enjoy the beauty. Eventually we hit a town, and it's way up in the mountains. It's about 4 hours into this drive. And we're thinking this is gonna take 4 or 5 hours. So we're like, oh, are we here? Like, this doesn't look very big. This doesn't look like Ayacucho at all. And no, this is just a stop. This is a bathroom break. We actually considered, should we just get off the bus and just stay like overnight here? Like there's gotta be an accommodation somewhere. It was a really small town, but we're thinking there's gotta be something somewhere where you can stay, break up this trip, because at this point, Sarah's feeling so shitty. There's been so much puke. But on the other hand, we're like, okay, we're 4 hours in. Like Google Maps said the drive would take like 4 or 5 hours or something. Like, let's push on, we're almost there. We already have a place booked for Ayacucho. So we get back on the bus and we keep going again. The kid who's puking, and
it just goes.
I look over at him and he's eating an ice cream. Well, that's not a good idea. And of course, like an hour later, I watch as he starts puking out the ice cream. Stinks like puke. Sarah's still puking. The ride just kept going. It kept going. Eventually, we arrive in Ayacucho and it's 11 hours later. We thought it was going to be 5 hours max, and the ride took 11 hours. You can imagine at that 5 hour point, you're like, okay, we're almost there. But actually, we're not even halfway there. We have 6 more hours to go. It was just like hour after hour, like how much further are we? Are we getting closer? Are we there yet? Torturous. And Sarah's just like puking. She ended up filling up that bag. Like, think about a grocery bag, like that. And the whole thing was just filled up with puke, and we just could barely tie it together and hang it in the bus seat in front of us as it just wobbled along as we went bumping over the roads, puke sloshing around. Just brutal. We did make it to Ayacucho, beautiful city. Worth it? No, probably not. Probably fly into it next time. It was like the first time we really underestimated a drive. It was rough. It was a rough go. I felt so bad for Sarah, and we kind of realized at that point that it was altitude sickness. So we took a couple days just to get acclimatized, and she started feeling better after a day or two. And yeah, that was the worst bus ride we'd ever taken in our lives. 11 hours, many people puking, the smell of puke in the bus air, bad Peruvian music blasting way too loud, bumping along this road. I would say it humbled us, because after that, we were a bit more careful about the rides we took. We did a bit more research, and I mean, it just got easier to do that research. Okay, I'm gonna sip up this coffee, and on Friday, I'll be putting out a new video. I don't even know what I'm doing. I gotta figure that out. This is organic palm sugar. It's a bit better for you. There's nutrients in it. I would say it's better for you than like raw cane sugar, because there's a little bit of nutrients in there. So that's what I use here in Cambodia. So I'm trying to do these kind of quick and easy to shoot videos. I usually shoot them on Monday, post them on Tuesday. And just as like some extra bonus footage, but also as a way to communicate with you guys. It's not so structured. I can do whatever I want. So one thing I did want to mention is I am going to be dropping the On the Cheap. That's my plan. I'm working on some logo design. So back in 2010, when we were in South America, that's when we started Itchy Feet on the Cheap. And the idea was, we want to show you that even though you don't have a lot of money, you can still travel. Here's how we did it. Here's the money we spent. Back then, Itchy Feet on the Cheap made sense, but now it's not so much on the cheap. I would say I'm still pretty frugal, but obviously our lifestyles have changed so much in those 12 years. So that's the idea. I'm not sure if the change is going to happen all at once. like just one day everything flips over. It might be a bit of a gradual change. Just if you notice that the channel is called Itchy Feet and not Itchy Feet on the Cheap, just know that it's because I've changed it and it's not some other channel. Trying to build a set. I'm not great at it, but I think it'll be cool when it's completed. And yeah, you can expect a few changes coming. So I hope you enjoyed that little story. I'll probably tell some more stories. I have a lot of stories about me doing stupid things. Actually, my original plan today before the rain started was to go for a walk around the school. There's a lot of street food outside of school, so I was just gonna do a little, just look for breakfast and show you guys some of the Khmer street food. Maybe I'll do that next week. Lots of ideas to come, so stay tuned and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, comb your hair.
Prefer when I'm by myself. I don't wanna hang around y'all. For good health, one day I'm really gon' ball. Fuck around and buy the whole mall. Breaking that cake, flexing 700 in the bank. Not a superhero, I don't save. Look at my face, look at my grades. Don't match up.